It is Thursday, rawmike.richards.com. And a happy Thanksgiving to all our American friends watching south of the border. Coming up on today's show, something I'm going to call, where's Dennis? Dennis Maruk, the legend. His books come out. He's going to do some signings, and so he's an interesting character. We'll get his take also on the NHL. Where's Dennis? Also, in something that's pretty cool, James Mark. He is the director of a movie called Kill Order. It's a big-time action flick with a science fiction kind of twist. Screening is Friday, November the 24th, so tomorrow, at the Royal Cinema at 7 p.m., part of the Blood in the Snow Festival, the BITS Festival. And, of course, we talked to Kelly Michael Stewart, who is the director and founder. Real cool thing they're doing here in Toronto, and a place for those movies to be seen. And let's be honest, pretty busy here in Canada when it comes to filmmaking. And so the fact that they actually have a place now to do it up here in Toronto, hopefully it becomes a regular feature of what happens in this city. But once again, you got a movie called Kill Order with martial arts and people probably using their eyes as lasers or whatever happens. Yeah, I'm going to watch it. You know me. Also, we'll talk a little football, obviously, today, south of the border. 3 games. The first one, actually, for once, the game in Detroit is going to be a really good one, too. I see the numbers actually crawled up to -3 Minnesota. If we're going to look at the current numbers, courtesy of our friends at Sports Interaction. Minnesota, so at the 12:30 game, -3. So +3 Detroit is your first game. Second game followed by the Chargers at the Cowboys. And right now, I think you got to be wondering the Zeke Elliott, subtraction right now in Dallas because of one player. They're terrible. They are just terrible now. We'll find out because the Chargers on the road, too. I don't know if I trust them. Right now, it's -1. I see the number has dropped, and I think probably if you want to call it a pick 'em, then it probably is a pick 'em because I don't know. Do you necessarily trust the Chargers? But I don't think anyone really trusts Dallas right now, especially with their offensive line, which has been terrible. And then finally, the Giants. The Giants at Washington, maybe at the beginning of the year, I thought this game probably could be an interesting Thanksgiving finale. -7 the number now for the Redskins. What do the Giants really have? And at this point, after this game, you got to figure they have to rebuild. They got to cut this thing down, and just how much some teams are going to be shaving off more than others. So if I look at the Denver Broncos, if I'm looking at the Denver Broncos, just how wrong are they? They're playing horrible football, but they have no quarterback, and they don't have a ton of weapons either. But they do have a defense that's legit. So they realistically could have maybe 2 or 3 players away. So that thing does not get a total overhaul. They have some offense. This is a team that could maybe win their division. This is a playoff team probably next year if they have something decent. So that's not one of the teams I think are going to cut it down. Although, speaking of the Denver Broncos, Kevin Gibson from TSN Research, who very often back in the day on TSN 1050 would hijack the show. He tries to do it here on rawmike.richards.com. And even though he's the biggest Bronco fan I can kind of think of, it's his birthday today. So happy, I got to think about 65, 63, 65 in there somewhere. Happy 60-something birthday to Kevin Gibson. Also, yet another angry Scotsman. Last night, if you're angry, well, you might be a Leaf fan because I got to tell you, that certainly the pressure that they had against Florida was better. Florida has not got off to the greatest of starts, and I think that, for a game that probably could have gone either way, the Austin Matthews thing. So, okay. If you're upset about the Kadri, are you necessarily upset about the Kadri penalty, did you think? Because at some point in the old days, that was nothing, but that's not nothing now.
No, I don't know. They're going to call retaliation all the time.
Every time, in any sport that I can think of.
They're going to call it all the time. It was just the fact that it was twice that they missed the call on Kadri. If it's once and he comes back and cross-checks the guy, all right, fine. He gets cross-checked twice without the puck from behind in the same shift, and he gives one cross-check back and he goes to the box.
Okay, I'm just going to change the music because I got to be honest. That's way too. Yeah, that was way too much for you. Way too dramatic. We don't need any more pressure on you. By the way, if you're wondering, Dave Bastel looking after his family today, so Dave is not in. So therefore, roast beef. He's dressed a little differently today. He's got new shoes on. I think he's just going to try to steal what Dave has. I'll be honest. Is that true, roast beef?
Someone's got to try.
Yeah. So yeah, the Leafs go down, but I'll tell you what. And almost we talk about truisms in sports. The retaliation guy is always going to get it. I don't care what sport you're talking about. You're going to get called. But there's also something else, too, which says to me in any sport where you have, offensive player, defensive player isolated, if the sport works that way, if you're behind the player, and you just name me the sport, anytime you can read the guy's name because you're behind him, if you try to make any kind of defensive play, I can go through the sports. Almost every single time, it should be a penalty. It should be automatic. If you're talking about soccer, they will call it a poor challenge. Even though you think you got your foot on the ball, you cross that leg in front of the other guy and he goes flying, you're getting, obviously that's going to be a foul and or a card, depending on how serious it is. In basketball, it's a reach. In football, obviously, if it's from behind, you're going to get flagged. And in hockey, even though he goes around, the defensive player, he sort of bends his arm, gets his stick on the puck. But as he does that, it's almost impossible not to clip the guy's back skate with his body, with some part of his body. So to me, to have that not called, that's a bad call, especially when it's a scoring chance.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a penalty, and for Mike Babcock, and he doesn't usually make too big a deal of one way or the other on each team. That's not who he is. He's going to say something, but I didn't think it was too much over the top. He mentioned that was a bad call, but that was a really bad call.
Yeah. On first glance, I was watching it last night. First glance, I thought it was a good defensive play because I was watching the puck and I saw the stick, and then you look at the replays and you see yeah, he gets his body on his skate way before he touches the puck. So, unfortunate. You kind of want to think, oh, it's overtime, and that was the reason the refs are putting the whistle away. But I kind of want to look at it rationally a little bit. And like I said, when I see at full speed for the first time, I thought it was a good play. So I'm thinking that was what's going through the ref's head.
Andrew, who's now off his night shift, and he's able to see during the day. He just brought up a point. There's something we have not played in a while. And guess what it is? The shit music. We haven't played the shit music in a while. Maybe that's what we should be playing. And we can't even do that now to the Edmonton Oilers. Not playing the shit music now. All of a sudden they woke up. 6-2, a beating on Detroit. Yeah, boy, that music that is shit. That's okay.
But yeah, that's a big bounce back game for Edmonton after that loss the other night. They finally found some scoring against the Red Wings last night.
Hold on. This thing is going.
2017.
No, it's not. Sorry, just the shit music took over and everything's gone. Last night's games of interest: Columbus won Cobb over Calgary in overtime. But you showed me the. Because we can't kill it, because the NHL will probably goon us if we play it. But John Tavares had the puck for, I would say, the better part of, 25 seconds? It's got to be in there somewhere.
Yeah, 25, 30 seconds.
In the NHL. This is not pond hockey. This is not like your older brother who plays junior and you're 8, where it's a keep away. He makes a couple of moves and fires it out for an assist that was probably, to me, if that's not highlight reel of the year, it better be. It was so good.
That'll be one we're seeing on the highlights for the rest of the year. It'll be top 10 plays of the week, top 10 plays first half of the season, top 10 plays at the end of the season. Sean Couturier is one of the better defensive centers in the entire NHL, and Tavares kind of made him look like a house leaguer on that play.
He did. He just totally. It was amazing. It's amazing. That was the skill set. You're watching Raw Mike Richards either on the .com or the dedicated YouTube channel. Interesting show. And actually, in a couple of minutes, we're going to, I guess, a new element to the show. Where's Dennis? Dennis Marouk and his brand new book. So we're going to find out exactly where he's signing, so we'll track him down. Then James Mark, the director of Kill Order. It's a big action flick this year. We'll take a little bit of it and then talk about just his involvement in the Blood in the Snow. It's the film festival. It's tomorrow night, by the way, if you're in Toronto, 7 p.m. at the Royal Cinema. It looks outstanding. This is a movie that I would watch, definitely, and it's great to have a venue for Canadian filmmakers to show their films. So we will talk to him. We're also going to talk a little Thanksgiving, but as you know, very often we like to have the rough stuff. You see a lot of fights on this show. You see stuff on the streets. Boy, you see stuff in bars. We show a lot of stadium fights. But this one, we thought because we started with hockey, maybe I should have a hockey fight. So for those of you who are a little sensitive about fighting in hockey, you may want to turn your head at this one, because I just saw this the other day, and two guys are going to get into it. It's a hockey fight, and viewers beware. There you can see they're staring each other down, and there's some pushing, and he drops the gloves, and there we go. Here we go. They both drop the gloves. This is going to get into the nasty. There's a right hook.
At me.
Uh-oh. And he looks at his mom. Now he goes back. Okay, so anyway. Did they actually have an outcome? Okay. Sorry for that. I didn't mean to get that graphic. Okay, so here's the interesting of Skype interest that we all have when I do this, and now I'm going to do it alone, and I have zero faith in this, by the way. So here we go. By the way, this is what I love about this computer's really giving me a tough time today. So why don't you tell me about, I don't know, when you were born. We need something while I figure this thing out, because it's junk. I hate using this thing. We got to find out where Dennis is. Therefore, I am now finding the numbers as we speak. And I got to figure this is going to be very gripping, but this is just painful. Sorry. This is...
Well, I can do what Dave does, give a quick rundown of what happened in the NHL last night. Just need to pull up some of the scores, because I didn't see.
This is like Access Cable 10
didn't see
all
every
of a sudden.
game last night, but so Leafs lose 2-1 in the shootout to the Florida Panthers. It was definitely a goalie battle. 44 shots for the Leafs, 43 saves, or 43 shots for the Panthers. Luongo looked outstanding last night. Wild beat the Sabres 5-4 in overtime. Jack Eichel getting a goal there. Buffalo released their Winter Classic jerseys yesterday too.
Ugly too, right?
No, they look phenomenal.
Oh, you like them?
They look phenomenal.
Oh, I thought you didn't like them or something.
They should be their normal jerseys, and we'll get to Dennis.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that was very exciting what you did there, by the way, too.
Hello?
I am looking for the legendary Dennis Marouk.
Speaking.
It's Mike Richards calling from rawmikerichards.com.
That's pretty good.
I'll tell you what. I'm calling this segment now, Dennis. Where's Dennis? That's what the segment's called. Need to know where you are, where because I know with the book you're all over the place. So why don't you tell us where you're headed?
Today I'm headed to Kitchener. Yeah.
Kitchener.
Later.
Now is that
later.
Is that a Dennis Marouk stronghold? Are they part of the Marouk army in Kitchener?
Oh, I don't know. It's it's for Easter Seals. We have a draft tonight, and then the team that draft, we play with that team all day Friday.
Now, for those kinds of events, but also because I see that your book's all over the place, how is that going? Are you enjoying the process? Because I know you have to go to a lot of places and do a lot of book signings.
Things are going pretty good. We're just we have that launch this Saturday at the bottom line. It's it's not a private, it's open. The Caps are playing the Leafs, so I thought it'd be a good idea. My friend Wayne Cowley's got his place there, and a lot of sports people go there. So before the game, so we're going to have a little set up there between 4:30 and 7 on Saturday. Hoping to get some the Caps fans that are in town will be able to come and see me, buy a book and get an autograph, get it signed by me.
Well, you talk about Caps fans, and I know a couple of them. They're an interesting breed because for a long time, obviously, there wasn't the kind of success that they wanted, and now during the regular season, they tend to be one of the dominating teams. But this year they go into it, and you almost feel like, Dennis, the team is a little gun shy. They have been so good for so long, and a lot of people thought last year might have been the best team that they've ever had. What do you think when you hear stuff like that?
Well, it's kind of like, do you have the right personnel when you get into the playoffs? I think there was won the Governor's Cup, the last President's Cup last few years, and they should not win it. The team that's won it doesn't necessarily win the Stanley Cup. So maybe this year, by them just getting into the playoffs, maybe they'll have a better chance of winning the Stanley Cup. But they can't get by Pittsburgh. They had time against. They haven't been able to get by them. Pittsburgh's beat them, and Pittsburgh's gone on to win the Stanley Cup. So is it their withdrawal, whatever? I don't know. I think it's sometimes you in the playoffs, certain guys got to step up compared to the big name guys. Your third, fourth line. Do you even talk to Crosby and talk to the teams that have won the Stanley Cups? It's players that you don't hear much about the regular season that excel in the playoffs, and I don't think the Capitals have had that with their other players that are not really counted on during the season. I'm not blaming them for it, but it just has not happened for them.
Do you think some of the criticism of Alexander Ovechkin, do you think it's fair?
Oh, I don't think it's fair. I think he's a great hockey player. I don't think one guy can. Wayne Gretzky will always say that when they won the Stanley Cup, it was the third. Greg McTavish, McClellan, all those guys that Lindsay, all the guys that played and that were not didn't play a lot during the season. But when they came to playoffs, it was crunch time because these guys had to step up and to do it. I think people should just leave him alone. He wants to win the Stanley Cup just like any other NHL player that's there. And one guy just can't do it. Crosby can't do it on himself. He never did. Kessel played well. Malkin, all those guys that go down the list. So it's a whole team effort, and that's what's going to win it. I mean, I would have loved that to have been on a team that had an opportunity to do it. We were close with Minnesota, but we weren't strong enough against the Oilers. Look at, they had a powerhouse, but we had a good team, and we had a close opportunity, but it just didn't work out.
The Maple Leafs, they lose last night, but it's a long season. They're only a quarter of the way into it. But when you see like some of the almost incredible improvements they've had over the last couple of years, to your way of thinking, how many players are they short of being that dominant team? Because they are so young. I don't think they're finished building yet. What do you see as a shortcoming that this young team has?
Well, you just said it. You don't think the building is they're still building on that right now. I think that they've always said, and I've had as a mature defenseman, that every team wants that, not just the Toronto Maple Leafs, but they got to work with what they've got, and their goaltender is good, and they've got good young. Look at their record right now. They've got the third most wins in the league. Who would ever think that they thought they would have had this by now? They've got 14 wins. Yeah, they lost last night, a close one, but that happens. Teams that are struggling and not playing well are going to maybe tightly check teams that are explosive and try and make it a close game, and that's exactly what happened with Florida. And to lose to Arizona played them tight, didn't give them a lot of room play, and anybody can win. So you've got to. So I think with Toronto, I would say, once they get their line combinations correct, and stay healthy, I think it would be the addition of a mature defenseman. Yeah.
I also think they need the Maruk mustache, but I'll tell you, some of them are so some of them are so young they can't grow one.
They need a guy like Wendell Clark. I mean, we're tough competitors. Yeah, I know I scored, but we were chippy, tough hockey players, and they need a guy like that. I mean, Martin's a tough guy now, but Wendell can score, can play, and hit. and all that, and a real gritty guy like that. And I think that's what they're missing a little bit too up front, that they don't have that meanness, that toughness that he brought to the team. And I think that's partly what they're missing. But yeah, they could use a Maruk mustache in there. I always wanted to play for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I'm cheering for them. I cheered for them when I played in the NHL. I tried to get traded, and it didn't work. Lou Nandy wouldn't trade me there.
Can you imagine what this city would look like if the Leafs ever, and maybe they're getting closer to winning a Stanley Cup? I can't imagine what the city would be like. Can you imagine?
Just the playoffs. I mean, just right now you can see a big excitement too. They had a great start, and they're going to keep winning games, and to get in the playoffs is the key, and you never know what could happen. And as I said, there could be guys that when they get in the playoffs will dominate in the playoffs that weren't really dominating players in the regular season. That happens. That's going to happen. And if the Leafs can just get in there, just like Washington, same thing, get in there and have your third or fourth line guys take over, it's amazing what they can do.
Hey, Dennis, thanks so much for joining. It's always a pleasure. We'll make sure that we do this again because I like the segment. Where's Dennis? I need to know.
I'm in Toronto. I'm all good. Yeah. Where's Dennis? Dennis is great. He's happy, and the book launches out. Get on Amazon.ca. It's a great read, great Christmas gift, and I've heard great comments about the book, and myself and Ken Reed with the Sports did an awesome job putting it together, and it was a lot of fun doing it too.
Hey, great hearing from my friend. Have a good time out in a great weekend in Kitchener with Easter Seals, and we'll make sure we catch up with you again real soon, Dennis.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. All right.
That is Dennis Maruk, the legendary Dennis Maruk, joining us here, and he's going to be this time in Kitchener for the great cause of Easter Seals. We're going to talk very shortly. A lot of action. James Mark is the director of Kill Order. Speaking of action, Grey Cup also coming up this weekend in Ottawa. The Argos and the Calgary Stampeders. Not that they haven't played before in a Grey Cup. Remember Winnipeg all those years ago? John Candy, McNall, the late, great John Candy, in one of the weirdest. So the kick return, so it's like 87 yards, and it is freezing cold, and they kick it to the Rocket, and the Rocket makes it all the way to the end zone, even beating a guy who threw an entire beer can during the run, and you're going to see it right at the end.
Sometimes is the forgotten man in the Calgary passing scheme.
Here's Don Whitman again.
The Rocket looks for a hole. If he gets to the outside this time, he's gone.
Here it comes.
The Rocket delivers the $1 million man.
Look at the frozen guys on the sideline.
Among the Toronto Argonaut owners, an 87-yard kickoff return.
That was Alan Thicke down there, by the way, too.
Junior Thurman. There's no way
once he got
Mark
outside,
McLaughlin was going to catch him.
Yeah, good try, Mark. Look at the beer.
The thing that the Rocket will do is he'll see the seam,
boom.
And when he sees a seam, I mean, it is over. I mean, he takes that seam.
Who throws a beer can? Seriously, but it's a full beer. Winnipeg, what are you doing? Like, where are you just getting cans of beer? Maybe that wasn't a good idea. That's just some of the, again, we've had a great time this week looking, it's a flashback to some of the great moments. And you forget at times just how, the kick return game, how it's changed so much in the league. But as much in 1991, which I think is interesting, that we talked about Rocket Ismail, our good friend Pinball Clemens, the pinner was still the pinner. The Eastern Final that year against Winnipeg, it was brilliant. And then I believe the Rocket, the first time he goes to the BC Lions, so that's when Murray Pezim, that nut bar, owns the BC Lions. So this is Toronto. It's the Argos versus a BC Lion team that featured Doug Flutie at quarterback. Obviously, when he comes to the league, it was Bobo Bilovich who actually brings Doug to the league. And so here's a moment in BC Place, Rockets' first game, but he wasn't the one who gets the kick return. Here's Louis Pasaglia with the boot, going to our good friend Mike Pinball Clemens.
Before the night's up.
The difference between the missile and the Rocket, about $17.85 million.
They play for the fun of it, man.
Pinball Clemens on this punt return.
Look at this.
As Adam Rita said, he can make you miss in a phone booth. And he is going all the way.
Led by the Rocket.
The Rocket escorting Mike Pinball Clemens 94 yards into the end zone for Toronto's second touchdown of the game.
There's Pavel Bilovich going, I can't believe it. You know, I brought that guy to the league. You know, the thing you could do is probably something I like to call tackle. You know, that's I'll tell you what, that's horse shit. Our guys were terrible that game. It's weird when you actually see me do it, isn't it? It is. Okay, so now what I like to do, so we have actually the preview of Kill Order. And James Mark is going to join us in studio, the director of the film that's going to be featured at BITS, the Blood in the Snow Film Festival here in Toronto. By the way, the screening is tomorrow. That's Friday the 24th at 7 p.m. at the Royal Cinema. They've done a fantastic job. Looking forward to this movie. The director on the other side. Here's a scene from Kill Order. See, I love this stuff. Look at this. You don't know how badly I want to be able to do this like in a Sobeys. Seriously. Or in a bar or... Oh, yeah. That's incredible. That's incredible. Ooh. That's you, Russell. That's what I'm doing to you. Kill Order. See, that was pretty good. See what I did there? We have James Mark in studio. He's the director of the movie. Thanks for joining me here this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mike.
That looked awesome.
Thank you.
So does that mean that you're also you know what's going on the martial arts world? That's your background.
The background I come from. I was originally a stuntman.
Okay, just move this a little closer. I know it's a little weird.
No worries.
I always feel bad doing that to guys who are like, "What are you doing? What are you, Harvey Weinstein?" No. Just moving this. Just move this a little closer. So you're a stunt guy, and that's a very niche. Like you got to be very specialized, very. I think sort of gifted in a lot of areas. You have to understand, all the cinematic process. But you got to be tough as nails. You got to be very flexible. But you have decided to now direct this movie. So how does that come about?
I got interested in directing a while ago when I started doing some online viral videos with my core martial arts stunt team.
Right.
So we put out this fun video called Jedi Ninjas, which is basically like ninjas with lightsabers because we love Jedis and we love ninjas.
Right.
And it kind of blew up on the net. It got like 1 million views in a week, I think, and I think it's got 4 million to date. And,
we will link that today. I'll send that out there for sure. Our audience would love that. Absolutely.
It's a fun video. And then a company picked us up to do a web series called Ultimate Fan Fights.
Now, was that a Canadian company?
This was an American company,
okay.
IGN. They're a big online gaming magazine. And we did this series, 6 episodes, which is different superheroes fighting each other, and you get to vote who wins. And
that's awesome.
I directed those videos with my brother, as well as Jedi Ninjas, and kind of got a liking to it and thought I'd take a stab at the feature world.
Well, that's fantastic, and it is. It must seem like a big leap, though. Like, what is the biggest difference from when you're doing viral videos and you're doing the Jedi Ninja stuff, and then all of a sudden you're doing something because it looks good? Like in the day, a lot of people would say, "Oh, looks Canadian.
Right.
You know, there's that and basically that had to do with money and sophistication of equipment. But that does not look Canadian to me.
It's an immense difference going from video to feature, because you have a long form narrative that you need to factor in. You need to hold the audience's attention for the duration of the film and build relationships and characters. And this film was a big learning curve for myself and a stepping stone.
Now, did you ever think at any point? Because I'm thinking if it's me and I'm making all the kinds of videos that I would make at my house, and I think you know what I'm talking about. And then all of a sudden, now it's there's a lot. There's gaffers and best boys or key grips or what are those people do, and do you ever think, well, maybe I'm over my head here? Have I made too big a step?
Not during the process.
No.
Maybe afterwards, you look back and go, okay, maybe you were a little too ambitious with some things, but no, we always felt comfortable in the positions that we were in when we took this endeavor on, and we knew what it was for and what it was going to be in the end. We're very happy with what we've accomplished.
So what was the toughest part? Because you obviously know, and I would assume in movies like this and things that you've done for a living, the choreography of what you're supposed to do during a fight.
Right.
So I would think that you'd have a great that would be very natural for you to understand that. What were the things that were a little bit harder in this that you had to really think about? Like, is it necessarily like storyline? Is it the in directing to make the actual acting not just 100% punch in face, bar and head? Now you got to think about other things. Was that harder for you?
Well, fortunately for this, the storyline's not too complex. We allude to a bigger storyline, but we don't get into much details. We tried to focus on the action as much as possible. The hardest part of making this was probably making the actual film, producing it. We had a small crew, financing it. I wore many hats, as most independent filmmakers do. I edited it, produced it with a partner, wrote it, directed it. I'm in it. I helped make the stunts. So that was probably
now, are you the star? Are you the star of the movie?
No. That's my brother.
Okay, because I just wondered. I thought if it's me, I'm making myself the star too.
Yeah, no. My brother starred in the film.
Yeah. So, families looking at this, they must be very excited for you, though. I would think they got to be excited.
My family?
Yes.
Yeah, they're excited. They're proud. Yeah.
Like, do they realize maybe it's more than just you being in your basement, beating each other up, thinking that you're Yoda or something?
Yeah,
There's
definitely.
Got to be a little bit.
I think they see a viable career path in the future if I stick with it.
Now, when you talk about financing and those kinds of things, that can't be easy.
No.
So what is the process in looking for money? Because that's really what we're talking about.
Well, every film is different in how it comes about, and in Canada, I find a lot of people rely on grants and tax credit financing, whereas we financed this completely 100% private equity.
Okay.
So that was just based on a network we'd built over the years.
So people believing in you then. This has to happen.
That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
People believing in you, a little bit of nepotism, people willing to take a chance and invest in something that you're passionate about. And we're very passionate about filmmaking.
Now, do you have a family business? Is there something that your family would gravitate towards, and not necessarily filmmaking?
My brother and I run a martial arts school, mostly headed by my brother, but no, there isn't a family business that relates to this.
So when you go to uncle and say, we're going to make a movie, and usually that's when the uncle fakes a seizure or something, or coughing, or they can't make the meeting. Yeah. But you didn't have that. People came to the table.
No, they came to the table.
Like, how much is a movie? People always want to know, how much is a movie, something like that?
More than it should be.
Are we talking 7 figures?
Close to.
Wow.
Yeah.
7 figures.
A lot of working components.
Like Russell does a lot of stuff in his bedroom. Who's running the board there? That he does it for free. There are different kinds of movies, though. They're, I guess you call them action to a degree. They have names for each other. It's kind of weird, but they do that kind of stuff. Right. But if someone takes a look at this, because filmmaking, I would think over the years, where you needed a studio. Right. You needed like a massive infrastructure because everything was so expensive. Quite frankly, the equipment was so big. Right. But now, I mean, we're talking. Obviously, you're not shooting on this, but the cameras. These are 1080p cameras that we're using right now. Mm-hmm. They're tiny. There's not people moving around in a studio. Yeah. So that part has changed a little bit. Has it made it cheaper necessarily or easier?
It's definitely made it easier. Things are more accessible to people, whereas they weren't before. People kind of come up in this digital era. They're comfortable with computers and technology and editing. They learn to do it themselves. That's why you have all these different YouTube channels that are very successful, and people are able to do them on their own accord. So the digital devices and technology that you can utilize to make a film definitely helps bring the cost down and make things possible. But having the experience to know how to utilize that properly... That just comes with trying to do it. So now we have a better idea after making trial and error along the way, right?
We're in conversation with James Mark here on rawmike.richards.com. Those watching live right now on the dedicated YouTube channel, or if you've downloaded on iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, the movie's called Kill Order. If you're in the Toronto area, you're listening right now or you're watching right now, it's the Royal Cinema. So it's part of the Blood in the Snow, the BITS Film Festival, and that's, once again, 7 p.m. tomorrow. That's the 24th. And becoming a part, how did you get to be a part of the film festival? Did you look out for or search them out, or did they find you?
So we have a Canadian sales distributor or sales agent named Raven Banner Entertainment, and they submitted our film to a number of festivals, one of them being Blood in the Snow, who graciously accepted our film and decided to premiere it here in Canada.
Well, I think because I'm trying to think when he was in here, when Kelly was in here. It's probably about at least 3 weeks, maybe a month ago. Kelly Michael Stewart, who's the festival director and founder, and because I think it's a great idea. That was a fascinating interview with just the depth of the things that he knew and the things that he wanted to bring. Right. Because Canadian film is something that we think necessarily has to go to some of the bigger festivals, and whether it's TIFF but the reality is, because of filmmaking has become smaller necessarily, that. Where do you get a chance to show some of these films? So this must be big in terms of, well, you tell me, is it distribution? Is it just recognition? Is it people seeing your work? What is it?
I think it's people seeing your work. Like, at the end of the day, that is what we strive for. This film we made for us and for people who have a taste for this type of genre film. And it's not a typical film because of our backgrounds. We're not highly recognized individuals in the filmmaking field, so we wouldn't normally get a theatrical release in Canada, and this is a perfect venue that puts it in the theater and allows the general public to come in and take a look.
Now, when you talk about having your own martial arts school and so on, so what is the discipline that is, or do you teach a lot of them?
We teach primarily Taekwondo,
okay,
and we also teach what's called Extreme Skills Development, which is a program that we
that
created.
Sounds bloody. That sounds something that I would like, maybe a little over the top.
It's actually more showy. It's like
more showy. That's good too.
Related, yeah. So we had a live stage entertainment team for many years where we did acrobatics mixed with martial arts.
So we just saw in slow motion. We saw in the trailer the guy going through the air,
spinning in the air.
Who's that?
That's my brother.
That's your brother doing that.
Yeah.
Can he beat you up?
In a sparring match? Yeah, he probably could beat me.
He could beat you up?
In real life?
In real life?
I don't know.
Yeah.
He might say otherwise.
And so it's just so interesting that you have done this, and I think a lot of people, I'll be honest, with the advent of MMA,
right?
Because there was a time where, if someone said they were a wrestler, depending on who you're talking to, they either thought WWF or WWE, or they thought, Greco-Roman, Olympic style, or if you go to Ohio State or Iowa or, one of those big, Oklahoma, one of the big wrestling schools. Now they've combined them. MMA is massively huge. That's why we talk about UFC. That's why we have some of the people on the show that we do. I've talked to Dana White a couple of times. Does that cross you or your brother's mind at the time that you're doing all this? Even though you're in the stunt world and you've got a school, do you ever think maybe I should give this a shot?
No.
It never did.
No, because what we do is very tailored towards entertainment. So it's not practical, except for Taekwondo. But on the entertainment front, everything we do is about making it look like the person's being injured or hurt, or making it look flashy, making it look exciting. It's not real, so... No, I'd never be interested in stepping into a ring with GSP. Or I've met GSP, and I definitely wouldn't want to step into a ring with him.
No. It's so interesting talking. They used to shoot It was Kung Fu, the second, the remake of it, and I think it was in the 90s, I want to say. And they shot that up here in Toronto.
The series. Yeah.
The series,
Yeah,
that's right, the
that's right.
series. And so David Carradine comes back. But the thing about David Carradine at that point in his career, you wanted him to do the choreography and the fighting before lunch.
Right.
Because after lunch, it was martini time. And you're not so sure that those punches and the throws or so on were exactly where they were supposed to be.
No, yeah, not back then.
How close is that? Like, I mean, people always say, Chuck Norris, they talk about the different guys who have made, even going back to Bruce Lee,
Right.
just how good were they at those kinds of things. And I don't think David Carradine was in that category. But what about a Chuck Norris? What about, when growing up, how could you not see Bruce Lee? How good were those guys really? Like, how good were they?
No, they're phenomenal. Those guys are phenomenal martial artists, definitely. Regardless of the movie itself. Right. Yeah.
Because people get confused. They're like, well, they can make Bruce Lee look that fast. And people said, no, Bruce Lee was that fast.
Yeah, no, Bruce Lee was that fast.
So is he like
He's an inspiration.
So is he a god to
all
you?
of us.
Really,
yeah,
are you?
for sure, definitely. Yeah. Growing up, Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan specifically.
And Jackie Chan. See, because I wasn't sure if that was seen sometimes even more comedically, because he kind of got into that.
Right.
But is he a legit guy?
He's
in terms
legit.
of-
That's his style. He grew up in the Chinese opera, learning martial arts and acrobatics. And
So
he's a
what would
great
his
guy.
discipline be?
Well, I'm sure he's done a number of things, right, over the years, just to constantly expand his knowledge in martial arts. But I was fortunate enough to work with one of his main stunt people for many years in the Hollywood industry. So
Because he like when he'd go through the car windows and
Yeah.
stuff like that, he's kind of famous for that stuff.
he's phenomenal. His athletic ability is through the roof.
And he wasn't
unparalleled.
young. And he wasn't young when he was doing that.
No, yeah.
Like he was like a massive movie legend
That's
in
right.
China before he even came here.
That's right. For many years.
So what do you think is going to happen then after this film? What do you hope to have happen?
Well, we hope to do another film.
Yeah.
Hopefully soon. We're looking at doing one next year.
Can I be in that film? I think I'd be really good in that film.
And we'll definitely call you for the casting.
Like a purse thief. I've always thought, the bad guy
Right.
goes, in those movies, you're not so tough. Sorry to do that voice. You're like, okay, doing the stereotype voice, are we now? We doing the dubbed voice? You're not so tough. But maybe get kicked in the head, in the face, or I wouldn't head chopped off. If you got something like that going on, I would love to be a part of that.
Yeah, we'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. Now, where are you from? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in actually Huntsville, Ontario.
Huntsville. I know Huntsville. I love Huntsville.
Yeah, I love Huntsville. My parents are still up there.
Oh, they're still up there. Okay, so your school was in Toronto or in Huntsville?
Where I
Yeah,
trained
yeah,
or
where you
where we
trained.
teach?
Yeah, where you
I
teach.
started training in Huntsville.
Right.
And then when I moved to Toronto, I trained here. And we teach out in Scarborough.
So you're Toronto area now, but you grew up in Huntsville. High school is Huntsville for you?
High school is part Huntsville, part Toronto.
So what's it like being an Asian guy in Huntsville?
You
Like, did they just assume? Like, of course, martial arts. That's the thing that we think. Everybody, is this martial art expert. But how does it come to be in Huntsville, Ontario, for you that you would even think of this?
Yeah, and I was also a competitive gymnast at the time, so that kind of
okay.
was
Yes.
a little different from the norm in Huntsville of hockey or snowboarding.
Smoking, drinking beer, those kinds of things.
Yeah. So, but when I learned to backflip, I became pretty popular
I
at
bet.
house parties.
Yeah. See, now it's starting to feel more Huntsville now.
Yeah.
Now we're getting. Hey, let's let James do a flip over here.
Yes,
Yeah.
but that was my entire high school.
Oh, that's right. Well, again, it's a fascinating story. As I said, the Blood in the Snow Canadian Film Festival. How many days do we have left of this, by the way? So there's four days. This is the big weekend. The Royal Cinema, and I think it's the first time that it has been at this particular location. So if you'd like to go and see it, I'm sure it's going to be fabulous. I wish you all the success in the world.
Thank you.
And keep in touch because, again, these things start off, and anyone at some point, Lucas, made a very small film. You just don't know where it's going to go. And as I said, with the popularity of MMA, I mean, guys are going to see this. So if you like science fiction and you want to mix it with martial arts, that's really what you've done, correct, in this movie?
That's right. Yeah.
So who wrote it, though? Who came up with this idea?
I wrote it.
Okay, so he's doing everything.
I
now.
did.
All
I
right.
did a lot of things.
Yeah.
We had limited budget at the time. So
And how long did it take you to do this?
it's taken 4 years
Oh, yeah.
to have this come
See,
out
this is
to
what
the
people,
theater.
people think it's great to do
Yeah.
this, and they go, What do you mean 4 years?
4 years of my life.
Yeah, and they're like
and
4
my
years.
wife's.
Yeah, and because you got to have an understanding wife for this one.
Yes.
Yeah,
I couldn't have done this without my wife.
No, she's not in the film. Is she a movie person?
She's not in the film. No, she's a teacher. She's a 9 to 5.
That's what this
or 9 to 3.
What grade?
6.
Ooh, 6. So she's probably tough herself.
She is.
She probably knows some martial
She
arts.
runs the house.
Yeah, I bet she does. James, thanks so much for coming in here. Once again, the movie is called Kill Order. It is tomorrow, screening at 7 o'clock at the Royal Cinema. Thanks so much for coming in.
Yeah.
And you know what? On the way out, here's another thing. They're like, okay, now we're going to play all Asian stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. So someone's going to now what? I'm Trump now. Am I Hitler? Is that what's happening? But here's a show I've never understood. Japanese game shows. I don't know what goes on over there. I don't particularly get who comes up with these ideas. Here's a freak show. I'm not making this up. Called Slippery Stairs. This is a show now in Japan. I don't know if it's going to be big over here, but anything that starts over there, like what was the other one? Where the castles and the Wipeout. Wipeout. Yeah. So coming to a station very near you, I'm sure you're going to see Slippery Stairs.
小峠がリードしていく。そして斉藤も現在2位、第3位に小宮、そして狩野英孝も順調なスタート。ただ田中がおっと狩野英孝落ちていきました。斉藤も落ちていた。小峠も落ちました。自動的に小宮がなぜか1位になった。小宮が自動的に非常にスローに手足を動かしていく小宮です。小宮が慎重に動かしていきますが、後ろから田中が上がってきたぞ。小宮が1位、2位が田中、3位に小峠と斉藤が続いています。斉藤落ちていった。
I don't know. I don't know how this can be a show. I mean, I know my friend Paul Smith says this is great. Those are the sound effects. Why do they have hot girls in the crowd too? Okay, that's enough of that. Unbelievable. Slippery Stairs. That's a show. Here's what I love about how networks work in North America. You know that's coming here. Does that not have Canada written all over it? Let's be honest. For most of February, we play the game Slippery Stairs, but it's not a game show. Would you do that, Russell? You want to get in a little slippery stairs?
I'd give it a try.
A little co-ed action there?
The one game show from Japan that I always wanted to try that came over here was that human Tetris game. There'd be like the hole in the wall, and they'd have to try and match in.
I never saw it.
But yeah, I'd try the Slippery Stairs. I'd give it a go.
Well, I'm sure you're going to get your chance. You're watching rawmikerichards.com. You're watching on the dedicated YouTube channel, or you've downloaded the podcast. Here we go. Yeah, here's Cousin Eddie saying, "What, are you kidding me? Are you serious? This is what's going on now?" Okay, what else? Here's one from Rick. There's a bunch of people. He said, thanks for sharing that video clip, Mike. I never got to see the opening segment for this game. I was a little busy at that time, Argos football. That was some of the clips that we've been playing to sort of look back at the Grey Cup. Speaking of looking back at the Grey Cup, the David Lee Roth from the other day was very popular, that call. Then there was, of course, the call from Robin Leach to the Haven app. Now, I don't know why Robin Leach showed up again. He hasn't been big probably in, 20 years? Unless you're in his house. By the way, his people tried to sue me once. Actually, he tried to sue me once. Twice. 3 times. Probably like 2 or 3 times. Well, it didn't work. Therefore, the humiliation continues. And at this point, we thought, what's the worst place? What is the most out of... If Robin Leach is calling the Haven app, what other place could he call looking for rooms for the 100th Grey Cup? Oh, I know. Toronto's party place. Fillmore's and the Fillmore's Hotel.
Morning, Fillmore's.
Hello, is this Fillmore's in downtown Toronto?
Yep.
Just calling about the availability of rooms. Myself, Bruce McNall, who owned the football team in Toronto, says there's a championship coming up this week.
Yep.
How does that work with the rooms? And I don't know how to say this. My name is Robin Leach, and sometimes I have a entourage And we might need some security as well.
You'd have to call back and ask to talk to Ian around 9 o'clock.
Oh. Now, do you know who I am? Do you know what I'm talking about? Lifestyles, the rich and famous?
No, I don't know any famous people.
You don't know who I am?
No, celebrity, it doesn't matter to me who people are.
Nice. But I'm a big star, and I'm just...
You have to phone back after 9.
Oops. Oh.
Wow. I rate that 10 out of 10 for customer service.
He hung up. Like, even if you don't think the guy's a huge celebrity, you haven't even heard of him. It was early in the morning, too. It's not like it was like the happening time at Fillmore's. Poor Robin Leach, still without a room for the Grey Cup. Should be a good game out in Ottawa. Obviously, I'm going to a Grey Cup party, which if I can't make it to the game, I'm usually hosting one or going to one, so you know it's going to be sloppy. Lots of food. And, of course, there'll be lots of food today looking at the NFL schedule. Once again, 12:30 is the start of the Minnesota-Detroit game. Probably going to be the best game, I would think, of the day. Maybe for all the wrong reasons, maybe the Chargers-Dallas game will be good because I just really don't know what to expect there. And I have no desire ever to watch the Giants this year. I don't care what the scenario is. The scenario might be you bet against them. Right now the number is -7 Redskins. But when Bruce Dobigan was on the other day, and this I was actually quite serious about, I just have, aside from the gambling aspect of the NFL, there's just been a lot of garbage football. It's played to the middle. The salary cap, and this is what they always hope for, they talk about parity. That is the nirvana that everyone wants to see, but the only problem is really it has lessened those that were elite teams, and it's made the middle ground that much bigger. The only league, to me, that I feel that there's a tremendous amount of parity is the National Hockey League, because it's not junk hockey. To me, it's not. I just think the level of the guys is so enormous right now. It's played at the highest level around the world that we have ever seen it. We've got better coaches. At the grassroots level, we play better hockey. They just do. Look, back in the day, the town mayor, the guy who owned the car dealership, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. But for the most part, guys are now taught to be coaches. Therefore, the qualifications are better. The level of hockey from all across Canada, as I said, around the world is better. The fact that expats go over and play in Switzerland and France, in Italy, I mean, you name it. Now that they have different generations or more generations of those ex-players, they've grown up there. Hockey, to me, around the world is the best that it's ever been played. What I think is interesting is Scotty Morrison, when he was in the other day, talking about the Olympic tournament. And I asked him, what, are you looking forward to that? I mean, if we agree that probably the best players in the world are not going to be there, what kind of tournament are you getting? And considering it's in Korea, do you know how bad that time change is going to be? Remember when it was in Nagano or Nagano, whatever, Japan? It was always like a hangover. I just never really knew what time it was because stuff was on at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Are you going to get up to watch it? Who's on our national team? And if it truly is guys that we may or may not know, how engaged are you to do that? Are you PVRing the game? So roast beef. I mean, you're probably one of the biggest hockey fans I know. Is this tournament going to hold anything for you? Are you excited about it or intrigued?
I don't think I'll be waking up for a lot of the games. And even there's a good chance that players from the KHL aren't going to be going now. And I know countries that aren't Russian that have players in the KHL are trying to be able to get their players to still go. But yeah, I don't think I'll be waking up for a lot of these games.
No, I'm not either. It's not that it's not about patriotism or so on, but why would I if I'm still up, or maybe you're on a bit of a roll and it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and you want to watch the game, but I don't know. Number one, I think it's always difficult with that time change. Number two, how much do I really care? I don't know what the ratings are going to be like. I think it's going to be tough.
I'll watch it if, like you said, if you're somehow still up like 2 or 3 in the morning, I might throw it on then. I'll throw on any medal game that Canada might be in, but other than that, I'm not going to wake up at 3, 4 in the morning to watch Team Canada play Team Belarus or something like that.
Yeah, and by the way, for people who want to ask that question, well, you can always record it. You don't record sports. I've been over this. I wrote it in my book. You don't tape or record or PVR or DVR sports. Because invariably you're going to get up and, with the computer world, you're going to have to avoid almost every single thing you can think about just to watch it. If you can do that, go ahead. I'm not working that hard to watch sports. It better be live.
No, I'd rather just know. I have.
See, that's the problem, right? That's the problem I think they're going to have is, oh, did we beat Latvia? Oh no, we tied 4-4. Oh well, and then you're on to the next thing. I think the ratings is going to be tough.
Yeah, I don't know. It's bad for the fans, I think. It's bad for attempting to grow the NHL in a market they've never really been in before, and they're not going. And it's not going to be the best hockey. And during the Olympics, you want to watch the best athletes perform at each event, and it's not what it's going to be for hockey. And yeah, I think the ratings are going to be. Yeah. They're going to suffer a lot.
I agree. By the way, now have I missed anything that I was going to play here today?
No.
I played all the videos?
We did.
Oh, I can't believe I did that. Well, I do want to wish our friends happy Thanksgiving. It is an absolute gorge fest the way that they do it. It starts on the Thursday, so they have 4 days. In Canada, we get what, the Monday off? We get the Monday off. They have 4 days. It's a huge event. It's for some, it's bigger than Christmas. Like, it truly is a massive holiday. There is a college game, Ole Miss and Mississippi State. I think it's -14.5 Mississippi State, but that is not going to be the talk today. At 12:30, so literally, in an hour and a half from the time that we're broadcasting, it's going to be on. So obviously I have to whip home and wager. That's Thanksgiving. I was going to do what I'm thankful for. Let me see if do I have this? Okay, this will be terrible because I'm just doing this now. All right. Yeah. That's nice. On Thanksgiving, what am I thankful for? I'm thankful that I don't have friends who own dream catchers. Because I feel if you own a dream catcher, you're a big loser. The biggest loser I can think of. Whether it's in your car, hanging from your mirror, or maybe something that you have in your house. If you have a dream catcher, I got news for you. Your dreams, not coming true, because you're a loser. That's really all I had there. I haven't thought of anything else, but I thought that was, man, I got to tell you. I try to do beautiful things on this show, and maybe that wasn't one of them. But we're going to have all your picks, obviously, tomorrow. It's a big day. Okay, now the music won't stop. All right, stop. We got a big day tomorrow, so we will do what we normally do at this time, which is... Yeah.
What? Just become best friends? Yep.
Oh, yeah.
You want to go do karate in the garage? Yep. It's time!
Like to thank our good friend Dennis Marouk, who is going to be busy in Kitchener-Waterloo with Easter Seals this weekend. He's a great guy on the segment we're now calling Where's Dennis? Also, James Mark, director of the movie Kill Order, part of the Blood in the Snow Festival. Tomorrow night, screening at 7 o'clock at the Royal Cinema. Sounds like a good one. Wish him all the luck in the world, too. So science fiction and martial arts. So scary laser eyes and head chomping. Count me in. We'll do it tomorrow. Sexy Gold Picks of Gold Sex. Probably Victor Newman and Russell Graham's Happy Endings. That's how you do a Friday. Maybe it's a good Friday. Join us tomorrow.